It's freezing. Good morning. Yeah, it's
Good
like, what,
morning.
30-something degrees
It is
outside.
37 degrees
It's
outside.
windy.
38, I'm sorry.
Hey, but summer's right around the corner, you know?
That's so funny. We got to go through November, December, January, February, March,
It's miserable. I can't.
April warm up.
Why do I live here?
I don't know, man. You left Florida to come back.
I
It's your
did leave
fault.
Florida. You know, the humidity in Florida was pretty much the same. He's here, though. So, like, when it did rain there, it only rained for, like, 30 seconds. Like, it would
Oh,
rain
shit.
really quick,
Yeah.
and then it would stop.
And then it'd be like crazy.
But it would be so humid after that.
Man.
So it's very close weather-wise, other than, we got out of school for hurricanes there. We get out of school for snow here.
Was the heat during a humid day the same as it is here? Because I feel like humid heat here has got to be I mean, I guess it's very, I'll say watery down there. There's a ton of water in Florida.
Yeah.
So I'd assume it'd be the same, but also, man, like the humidity here is terrible.
It's pretty bad. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while, and I wasn't really paying attention to the heat. But I feel like the reason it felt similar to me was because it's hotter there, so it even feels, with a little bit of humidity, it feels the same as here.
Yeah.
Because here it could be 70, but super humid, so it feels sticky, icky, and 100.
Mm-hmm.
There it is 90 to 100 with a little bit of humidity.
Can we just appreciate the use of vocabulary there? When it's
Sticky,
70
icky.
and very humid, it's sticky, icky, and feels like 100.
It's true. What would you call it?
Probably just sticky.
Sticky? Well, it's icky.
I guess it is icky.
It is.
As you can probably tell, the videos that Grayson is watching for his baby is starting to rub off on him. The vocabulary used in these videos is starting to creep its way into Grayson's vocabulary. So we may have.
You might have a Wiggles song pop out here any minute. It's
Red car, big red car. Is that one of them?
yes. Give me a second. Something. Big red car. I can't remember that one off the top of my head.
I loved it when I was a kid, but I can't
I
remember.
cannot deal with it. I'm the type that if there is multiple noises going on in my life at the same time, I lose my mind. Like my brain just stops functioning.
For me, if it's multiple noises and I'm trying to focus on something, like say I'm trying to watch a show, and then like my wife is watching something next to me on her phone, or someone else is trying to talk to me, I get so mad.
Livid. Like I can't, like my brain doesn't work. Like it drives me nuts. Like the baby's talking. Hannah wants to have a conversation with me. She has something playing on her phone because she don't want to watch the Wiggles, but the Wiggles is on the TV and I'm staring at my computer.
Oh,
and
man.
It could just have a black screen because I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Like my brain has a short. Like it trips out. Like 100%. And then I get frustrated and Hannah doesn't understand why. She's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Do you not hear this? Do you not hear this roller coaster of events going on right now?" I'll just turn the TV off. I'm like, "She's not watching it."
Yeah.
Like, she's not watching it. She is screaming, wants a bottle, biting my nose.
Biting your nose.
Like, she ain't watching the Wiggles. We're not watching the Wiggles. Darren has gotten very acclimated to the Wiggles.
Okay.
She was asleep on his lap the other day, and he was just sitting there watching the Wiggles. I'm like, "We ain't got to watch this." I'm like, I just grabbed the remote. I'm like, "We can change it." We're not watching this for us, bro.
Hey, sometimes those kid shows are very entertaining.
I have noticed that they do get you in. I don't know why. Like, I'll catch myself just sitting there, like, staring at the Wiggles. And I don't understand why.
I will admit, when I was over that one day and we were watching the Doodle Bops for Maya,
that's the worst.
I was actually kind of intrigued.
It's the worst one.
It was a little bit beyond my my cartoon days, like that kind of show. I wasn't watching that because it was just after that like 2-3 year old.
Let's just knock this out real quick. Like, my shows were when it was cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
Ben 10,
Okay.
SpongeBob,
Yeah.
Static Shock.
I don't know that.
No one remembers this. This dude was epic. He was a African American superhero with a cape, with dreads, and like obviously Static Shock, like lightning and all that kind of stuff. Bro, I would watch it now. So good. That was really all the cartoons I probably watched. I mean, when I got a little older, I guess Phineas and Ferb, but I didn't really care for it. Kind of drove me nuts.
Really?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Static Shock, dude. So there's this. I play Madden, and I'm always a year behind because
it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I'm pretty poor because my wife didn't work for a long time. But there's a song in Madden 23 that is just so catchy. It's got this line. Is Madden? No, Madden 24 is the game right now. So it goes, every block, every hood, every city, every ghetto, they need a black superhero.
That's pretty catchy. They need Static Shock.
They need Static Shock.
Yeah.
Like, every time that song comes on,
They
I'm
don't
singing.
need, what's The Rock? What was that show? That movie?
Black Adam?
Black Adam? They don't need a Black Adam.
They don't need a Black Adam.
They need Static Shock.
Although I thought that movie was actually really good.
It was pretty legit.
It was.
But The Rock just needs to chill out.
Did you notice? So, did you ever watch the movie Young Rock? Or the show Young Rock?
Was that with Demi Lovato?
No.
Camp Rock. That was Camp Rock.
Yes. So Young Rock, it was a show that was on Peacock that told the story of basically The Rock's life.
No, I didn't. Was he skinny and not on steroids?
I mean, I guess when he was in,
I guess when he was 10.
when he was playing football, maybe at the U.
Yeah, probably not though.
But Black Adam used the actor that played The Rock in Young Rock.
Really?
Yeah, like when it shows the flashback of like Black Adam's dad being killed or whatever, that is the man who plays The Rock in Young Rock.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, this is awesome.
I'm glad you were the only one in the world that caught it.
I know. But Young Rock, dude, they made 2 seasons. Taylor and I were waiting on the 3rd season to come out. They discontinued the show.
That's how you know it's good.
Oh, man, the show was so good. It was so funny, and also, I mean, like if we haven't talked about it, or if you don't know, watchers or viewers or listeners, I am a very big fan of wrestling. The Rock was a little bit before my time watching wrestling because I'm only 22. At least his prime was. But I am a huge fan of professional wrestling. I know people in the comments. No one comments on our videos. But some of you viewers may say, "Oh, it's fake. Like there's no reason to watch it." To me, it's like an action movie, but like live. Like you were watching the filming of an action movie. I don't know how people can't appreciate that.
It's pretty crazy. I mean,
yeah. It's like I watched the Royal Rumble this last year, right? Craziest spot I think I've ever seen. Logan Paul and Ricochet get on the ropes. There's a 22-foot ring, right? And they jump off the top rope and collide in the middle of the ring. Craziest thing I have ever seen. I think it's going to go down as like one of the best wrestling moments of the 2010s. I truly believe it.
2010s?
The 2020s.
2020s. Okay.
We are no longer in the 2010s.
I was going to say that. So this was a long time ago?
Nope. We have not said this yet, but this is episode 28.
It is. I hope.
You want to know something really funny?
There's 30-something weeks in a month?
There's 52 weeks in a year.
Oh. I'll cut that out.
No, leave it in. There were 2 episodes that you labeled episode 25 when you posted them on YouTube.
I don't believe you.
I changed it. When I posted the shorts, I changed it. 2 episodes.
But we were still right on track?
Yeah, you did
Like,
25, 25, 27.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's good at least. At least I didn't do 25, 25, 26.
No, it was really funny. But I feel like today I've been typing up or writing a message that I'm going to be giving for our young adults, and it's on boundaries. I don't know if we've ever went into depth on boundaries, and boundaries are a
I
good
feel like
thing.
we had a title called Boundaries.
Feel like we did.
I don't know. I'll let you know here in a second.
As I was saying, boundaries are a good thing, but they can also be a bad thing. They're good because they keep us from doing things that one, we're not comfortable with, and two, they keep us from doing things that aren't aligned with our calling. They keep us from getting with people or being friends with people that God is trying to keep away from us. But the reason I said they're a bad thing is because sometimes our boundaries get in the way of our calling as well. Do we have a video?
No, I'm a liar.
Sometimes, so what comes to my mind is if I have a boundary set up that I'm not going to go into depth in terms of my life when I come in contact with a stranger. Like, I'm not going to tell them my entire life story. That's a boundary that I've set up because in the past that has hurt me. Your life is a testimony. Yes, you may not want to go into all the depths of the trauma you've went through, the struggles you've went through, but you never know who you're talking to, or you never know that the person you're talking to may need that. They may need you to say that you've went through, that your parents may have beat you as a child. You may have experienced sexual assault. The person you're talking to in their life may have dealt with that, and because they've dealt with that, they felt like God wasn't with them. God didn't love them. God wasn't going to protect them. But then if you were able to say what God has brought you from, what God has brought you out of, into being a child of God and putting your faith and trust in Him, if you don't say those things, that person may never get there. And sometimes, every time, all the time, God puts people in our path so that we can share our testimony with, because they can relate in some way to what we've been through. And we're called to grow the kingdom of heaven. Before Jesus ascended to heaven, He said, "Go and make disciples of all nations." We fail at the Great Commission every day because we see people, we come in contact with people, we have conversations with people, and the majority of the time we fail in sharing the gospel and showing the love of God to those people because we're uncomfortable, because we've set up boundaries, and that goes beyond our boundaries. We have to go beyond our boundaries. We can't stay within the confines of what our comfortability, or where our comfortability lies.
I didn't have boundaries for a very long time. I don't know, because I just didn't see a need. Like, I didn't know, like, what would I set a boundary on? I guess my only boundary was I was not going to do any drugs other than marijuana. To me, that wasn't a boundary. To me, that was common sense.
Yep.
If I have to take a pill, like that just seemed really dumb.
Yeah.
And if I have to snort it up my nose or shoot it in my veins, that seems even stupider.
Yep.
So for me, it was like marijuana, smoking a dab, like that stuff seemed fine. Just because it didn't seem as insane to do. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you're insane if you do it. I get it. You do it once and it's hard to not do it again. Which I also knew that, right? Like, I didn't care if I became an addict to marijuana. I enjoyed it. It didn't seem like a problem to me.
Right.
Whatever, but like, yeah, I didn't want to get addicted to cocaine. Like, that sounds horrible. Or heroin. Like, that sounds awful. So I guess that was my one and only boundary that I had, like, my entire life pre-Christ. But it didn't feel like a boundary. I honestly don't think I had any boundaries in my life until marriage. And I don't think I did in my marriage because I didn't know any different.
Right.
We obviously have boundaries now and things. Like, I think some boundaries came in marriage just because it's like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Like, I already know this. It wasn't like a discussed boundary. It was just like hey, I probably shouldn't, DM a female on Instagram. That would probably be stupid. Sure. Just common sense things that you probably shouldn't do when you're married. Or maybe dating. That's for you to figure out. But yeah, definitely now there's boundaries, and boundaries that have been discussed. Mainly, not necessarily because of marriage, but, like my wife trusts people, certain people, and things. So it's like if I was in the car with this person because they needed a ride or whatever, like she probably wouldn't care as long as I let her know and like asked her if she's cool with it.
Right.
But apparently other people care. How do I word this? Apparently, I have to care about my image now because other people probably care more about my image and will find absolutely anything to twist something. Which I didn't know, but I think that is the hardest thing about being a leader in Christianity.
Yes.
For me. Because I do not care what anyone has to say about me.
Yep.
There's obviously a few people, right? Like my mom, my wife, probably Chris, like lead pastor. Like, I don't want him to think I'm not, I don't want to think I'm horrible. But really, other than that, like, if you don't like me, I don't care. If you think I did this, but I know I didn't, like, I'm not going to talk you out of it because I don't really care what you think. Yeah. That's been, like, my entire life, like, very carefree, like, no problem there. But I've definitely had to look at that at a completely different light, I guess you could say, because of my faith and because of, hey, I'm in an internship, and, hey, I represent this church whether I think I do or don't. Because in my brain, I was like, I'm not on staff. I mean,
right.
How am I a representation of this church? But I guess you could say I'm kind of everywhere. Like, if this church is doing something outside the church, I'm typically there. And if we're doing something in the church, I'm typically there. So I definitely understand it. I definitely get it. So I've definitely had to watch that in my own life.
It's so difficult, though, because the thing, and I know what you're talking about, but the thing you have to watch is not anything that deals with temptation.
Yeah.
But it's the perception. The problem with church people is that if they see you doing something that may lead to sin, they automatically make it sin. If you're out in public and you get a drink, you get a glass of wine or a cup of beer or a glass of beer, you're a drunk. If you're seen driving a woman home, you're cheating on your wife.
Right, like you're not a good person.
Yep. And
because honestly, just a couple of days ago, Hannah needed to be here for something, and I didn't. But you did, and I was literally like, just ask Tyke. Like, he lives across the street, and he's going to the same place you're going. That way I don't have to get out with the baby. I can keep a car. Like, it just made sense.
Yep.
Logical sense. And she was just like, it won't look good. And I was just like, I don't care. Like, I know nothing's going on. He knows nothing's going on, and she knows nothing's going on. So my brain goes to, I don't care. I don't care. If someone literally thinks that's happening, let them think it. Like that's my brain. But I was just like, you're right, and we went about our day. But
Yep.
it's annoying that's how it does have to be. I understand it, in marriage, like you have to have the boundary of I don't want you, like there's certain people yes, there's certain people no, right? Like I wouldn't let Hannah get in the car with some people.
Right.
I could really care less if you drove my wife to church. But that's just a boundary that unfortunately has to be there for all of us in the ministry world.
We have to stay above reproach, and that's like I said that I hate the thing about church people where they see you doing something that may lead to sin and they automatically say that it's sin. But as leaders and as Christians, really, we have to stay above reproach, and we have to make sure that that's not going to happen, that we don't get caught doing those things out in public, because we are a representation of Christ. And a lot of people in the argument of alcohol go back to, well, Jesus drank wine. Yes, technically Jesus drank fermented juice, which is the same thing as wine today, but alcohol back then was so much different than what alcohol is today. The fermentation process back then was literally just letting it sit, when today it's a whole big industry, and they know the best way to make it more alcoholic quicker. So Jesus, in all reality, was drinking like 0.2% alcoholic grape juice. Like there was no way Jesus could have gotten drunk off of what he drank. And Jesus knew like he couldn't get drunk. He knew that getting drunk was a sin, so he wouldn't have. I've heard a lot of people argue that, like the tolerance thing, like, oh, how am I supposed to know my tolerance? Well, one, if you never drink, you'll never figure out what your tolerance is, so that's a good thing. But two, just be responsible.
You can definitely tell when you're getting close.
Yes, you can tell when you're getting close. Out of experience, I can tell you're gonna know when you're getting close. When you start to feel good, it's about time to stop.
The first time I ever drank, I was actually in high school, if that's not crazy. I mean, you can look at it different ways, I guess.
I don't remember how old I was.
I was in my freshman year, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I also had my license. So I was probably my sophomore year before I ever drank. I was actually at a cop's house. Wow. His daughter was throwing a party. And they basically said, here is a bottle of vodka. And I had no idea. I didn't know. I was like, okay. And I drank the whole thing.
Oh, my gosh.
And if you've ever seen the Project X movie,
okay,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'll back up a second. I had to pee about halfway through. And they were telling me, don't pee. I was like, I got to pee. I'm not going to sit here. And I stand up, and I walk down the hall, and the walls are like the ocean, bro. Like just waves. And they feel like they're getting closer and closer to me. And I was just puking and puking and puking in the bathroom. It was so bad. And I finally just walked outside their back door and laid in the grass with my face down, like spread out. Basically like the Project X movie cover. If you have not seen it, I will try to remember at this point to add a picture of that. But when I edit this, I don't usually watch the whole video. So we'll see if I remember. And they just kept feeding me bread.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad. It was awful. I was like, why do people do this? They're like, well, most people don't drink a bottle of vodka. It's pretty bad. It's disgusting. I don't know why people enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I understand the lose your feelings type thing up to a certain point, but then after that point and forward, you lose everything. So I don't know. It's horrible.
Yep. We are to stay sober minded. The Bible tells us to stay sober minded. So you have to watch yourself when you're doing that. And honestly, I guess I haven't drinking in a long time, so I can't relate to everyone, but um, I do not understand the draw of getting an alcoholic beverage when you're out eating. Like, I'd love a Coke Zero. I'd love a Diet Coke. But to get say like a Long Island iced tea, no. I want to I don't want to like alcohol usually doesn't taste good. It usually tastes like alcohol, and it's not worth it. It's not worth eating the good food and to drink a drink that does not taste good. If you have a palate that enjoys alcohol, I'm very sorry. Um,
If Bud Light is your Coke Zero, I apologize. Like if it tastes the same,
Yeah.
like equivalent to me having a ice cold Coke Zero versus your ice cold Bud Light, if you're like, oh, this tastes so much better, that's not good.
No, that's,
That's not good.
Now, I'm never going to tell you that you can't drink, especially in the privacy of your own home. Because one, you're when you I don't even know how to say this. Yes, you are to represent Christ in everything that you do. When you're at home, though, there's very few ways to necessarily represent Christ, or to really represent Christ, because there's no one around. There's no one you need to quote unquote influence.
Other than your family.
Other than your family, yes. If you're getting if drinking alcohol at home causes you to mistreat your family, then of course that is wrong.
If it's all you think about, if it's all you look
Yes.
forward to, if it's okay, I gotta get these kids to bed so I can go drink.
Yep.
Like that's the issue.
If you're reaching for a beer more often than you're reaching for your Bible, it's wrong. More often than you're reaching toward a connection with God, it's wrong.
Dang, that's a word.
Because I mean, there are people that get home at night, and I think about people that wake up for a 9 to 5 job. They go to work, and as soon as they get home, they go to the fridge and grab a beer and sit down. But they haven't spent any time alone with God that day. In my mind, I go straight to I go straight to Catholics, to be honest with you, because I know I had a lot of friends growing up, a lot of classmates growing up whose parents were Catholics, and I know that that's the lifestyle that they lived. I know that's the lifestyle a lot of people live. A lot of people claim to be Christians, yet they are using other things to comfort them, using other things to please them, to bring them joy, other than God. Using things of this world.
It definitely goes back to boundaries. Like I'm not saying you can't have a alcoholic beverage,
Right.
but how many are you having? Is it all you look forward to at the end of your day?
Mm-hmm.
Is it every day? I mean,
right.
It's just the boundaries aspect.
That also, like you said, every day that can lead into being wise with your finances.
Right.
Because
like for me, I definitely won't drink in public. Like that's just a boundary I have to have.
Yep.
Like period. Just because it goes back to that representation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying people not in ministry, things like that should have that same boundary, but you do have to look at what other people on the outside see that, and they're like, I thought he was this and he's out drinking. That's weird. Because I grew up with a bunch of different religions, I guess, but I went to a Lutheran school first, and years later, but we had a pastor at that church, and years later I was actually living in St. Louis. And the pastor of that Lutheran church, of the school I went to, was in a restaurant with, how you'd order at like a Mexican restaurant is like, I want a big Bud Light, like it's a big one. It was like a pasta place, but he had one of those sitting at his table, and I was just like, that's super weird.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super weird. But the differences between religions is so far, but so not at the same time. Like everything's just off a little bit
Yeah.
with every religion, but some of those things that are just slightly off is very large, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these over here, these pastors, they can't get married.
Yep.
And then there's these pastors over here, it's like they can't drink. Or there's these pastors over here that they can do all of those things. Or they can't get married, but they can drink.
Yep.
So it's just in my brain, what's off with thinking, oh, I can't get married as a pastor, but I can drink.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bible is more clear on drunkards will not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Versus you're a pastor and can't get married.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it because there's I can't remember what letter it is, but Paul is writing, and he says that I wish every person could be like me and not marry. But if singleness leads to temptation, then I encourage you to get married. That's roughly what he says. And a lot of the Catholic priests, they're trying to represent Christ, and we know that Christ was never married, and so I get it to an extent. But there's also so many scriptures that talk about man and wife. That's that's what God intended for man and woman, is to be married. We look at Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve were together in a covenant with God, and that's what marriage is, together in a covenant with God. So yes, I get it because of what Paul wrote, because of trying to represent Christ to the fullest extent. But like Paul wrote, like singleness, I've never met a person where singleness does not lead to temptation. They struggle with, say, masturbation, or they struggle with lust. Paul clearly says that if we struggle with those things, we should marry. We should get married. And I don't know if I would love to talk with a priest, a Catholic priest, to see what their stance is on that verse. Because technically it's a boundary that they've set up. But do they just not go by that verse? Do they not have that verse in their Bible? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it is different. If you didn't know, the Catholic Bible is different than the just the regular Bible that you can buy at any store.
So's the Jehovah's Witness Bible.
Yes.
It's very different though. Subtle changes, but a bunch of them.
So is the Mormon Bible. Got the Book of Mormon in it. Well,
how long is that?
36 minutes.
Shoot. Well,
that was episode 28.
It sure was. We have. Give me 6 seconds to look at the calendar. Don't leave. You're going to regret it.
Oh, don't go.
Don't leave.
I just want to let you guys
14th.
know that we are in the process of purchasing some gear right now.
So November 14th is when we get our package, which is a Tuesday.
This is big.
So it looks like.
Don't say it. Let it be a surprise.
Monday, the 20th, when we record, which means you will see it Wednesday, November 22nd.
Oh man!
So it's a little ways away.
Don't say it, but it's a big announcement.
It's pretty lit. Pretty fire.
But as I said, we're trying to get our own gear. Mainly because I hate this red wall.
And they won't let us paint it.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I haven't asked, but
we're just trying to bring you guys a better product. So we are, like I said, in the process of purchasing some more gear and possibly getting a new location. I know we've switched on you guys so much, and I'm so sorry, but if you're listening, nothing has changed.
Still have to have you record that awesome, funny singing intro and outro music video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that'd be super fire.
Yep.
Super fire.
ClearCut.
I love y'all. Don't be offended. Take it with a grain of salt if you felt offended.
Yes. Also,
We're here for you. Because we love you. And Jesus.
if you comment on our shorts,
I will respond in the most Christian, mean way you've ever seen in your life.
yes, and you're helping.
Smiley faces towards a rude comment say a lot of things.
You're helping the algorithm, so it's all on you.
It's fair too. Love y'all. Peace.
Peace.